Want to introduce a man who's actually the hardest interview to do, is somebody who you love, who's a friend. And it's been one of the joys of my life to become friends with this brilliantly talented man. There was, of all the acts that Brian Epstein saw in Liverpool, there was the Beatles. He was looking for talent. He was looking for passion. But mostly, I think what matters is people who had that spark. And I'm not an American Idol fan to it, but you see who has the spark and who has not. And this gentleman has had it from the day he first started singing at the Cavern and everywhere else to this day with a fabulous, fabulous band. Please welcome to this stage, Mr. Billy J. Kramer. It's good to see you. You could stand. I have to sit because of this very clever.
I'll sit too because I'm getting old.
Quick story. I'm in L.A. where I was jogging. This is where I broke my foot. I was wearing this. Billy and his spectacular wife, Ronnie, were kind enough to give me this for my 50th birthday. I'm having dinner at this fancy restaurant with an old friend, and the waiter, who's about 22, comes up to me and says, my hand to God, "Sir, that is such a beautiful symbol. Is that a Hindu symbol?" And I said, yes, it is. Because I thought it would take so long to explain to him what vinyl, and that the little ones had a big hole and the big ones had a small, and you had it. Yes, it's a Hindu symbol. Yeah. It would just take too long.
A lot of people don't get that. It's amazing. It's scary.
It is. Sit down. How are you?
All right. Very good.
Billy, as we found out, has anybody here seen Billy perform in the last? You know, the songs matter, the songs are great, but how you perform them, the band you're with, makes it spectacular. And the band you have, I dare say, is one of the greatest bands I have ever heard.
I really think so. You know, I've worked with a lot of musicians over the years, and I've worked with some very good ones and some very bad ones. But the band that I have now, to me, is I don't really want to play with anybody else. You know, I love them.
Frank Annunziata, the guitarist, who played with John Lennon, who probably was going to be in the touring band when John was going to go out in 1980 with Double Fantasy, with Andy Burton on keyboards.
Yes.
And is your drummer here?
Yes,
today?
he is.
He's
out in the audience.
There's this bum drummer that's been hanging around with Billy. Where are you? Hey, is the drummer here?
He's there. There he is.
Get up here. Come here. I want to introduce you to Billy's drummer. You may know him from all the years with Billy Joel, Mr. Liberty DeVito. Lib, come up here.
How are you doing? You want a microphone?
My card. Here's my card.
How's this for a picture? Paul saying, "Thanks, Liberty." Paul, explain that for a sec.
This here, I did a thing in the studio with Paul McCartney. And, you know, we got the check, we got paid, it was very nice. But then all of a sudden in the mail, I get this picture, and it says, "Thanks, Liberty," from Paul McCartney. You know, I cannot believe this. I have something like this. I have an autograph from Ringo. When I met Ringo, it was the greatest moment of my life because I actually got to say, if it wasn't for you, Ringo, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. And he looked at me and he said, "Well, at least you're not blaming me for it."
Lib, thank you so much, my brother. Liberty DeVito. The power of that man sitting on the drum kit. And Billy's got an album out here, Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas, The Borough of St. Marylebone, Abbey Road. It's a spectacular collection. This is awesome.
It was a collection of all people who'd worked at Abbey Road and recorded there, you know.
You know, we have some new people here, the first time at the fest. Just to explain a little bit of your history, not only was Billy managed by Brian Epstein, but John was kind enough to give you that to me.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's funny, but every now and again it crops up where people ask me, they go, where'd you get the demo? What was the demo like? You know, and the thing is, it's only in recent, like the last couple of years, I never had a demo. of Bad to Me. John Lennon simply sat down at the piano and played it for me. And then he said, I want to run something by you, Billy. And he played I Want to Hold Your Hand. And I said, can I have that one? And he said, no, we're going to do that one ourselves. But, there was never, the only time I ever got any kind of demo was, it was just an old tape Brian Epstien gave me and said, learn this song, we're going to go after a record deal. And the song was, Do You Want to Know a Secret?
You had that out first.
I had a #1 hit that back in England with that, yes. But I think I must have been the first person to ever have such a big hit with a Beatles song,
Talk a little bit about Brian as the person. We in every story you read, the Svengali, the man who saw the Beatles at a lunchtime show at the Cavern, and wow, magic happened, and he knew how to take them to the next level. Tell us a little bit about him as a.
He was very good to me. I mean, what happened? I was I was about to give up the whole thing, And sometimes I think maybe I should have, But he heard that I was about to pack up the whole business and go more into engineering, which is what I was doing, and he approached me about being, my manager, and he sort of made me a lot of guarantees because it's a very insecure business, and Brian, was aware that I had parents who were getting up in years, and he just said, I'll whatever, if you win a lot of money, it's yours. If you win less than X amount, I'll make it up out of my own pocket. He was such a good manager, he never had to, but he was a man who would sort of like call on my parents, things like that, things like that, which meant a lot to me.
It seems like anybody who knew him says that same thing. When all you can say about a man is anybody who knew him or worked with him just says what a wonderful person this was, like what.
To America, yes. Just before the Beatles, we came and did a small promotional tour. Obviously, he was, I think, negotiating the Beatles Ed Sullivan show, and he was great,
What was your impression? How old were you when you first came to the States?
I think it's going back a while. I think I was 20 or 21.
Were you scared?
I was absolutely terrified. I got off the plane at Kennedy Airport, and Brian said to me, what do you think of the place? And I said, it's too much. I think we should go right back to England. I was scared of all you people. Yeah.
So you get to Manhattan.
I get to Manhattan and booked into the Waldorf Astoria, and back then, I guess a lot of young people then, the only thing I was bothered about was going to the bar, and I was very disappointed because I found that when I went to the bar, they asked me for my ID and like my passport to see how old I was, and I was underage. I've been drinking for years in England.
Yeah, I was going to say that somehow I don't imagine there were too many bartenders in Liverpool that checked ID of anyone ever.
Well, nobody ever asked me in Liverpool for ID for anything, But I was very disappointed because I come to America thinking I was going to have a bit of a party, and I couldn't even go in a bar. It was rather funny.
Speaking of Liverpool, Billy's doing this amazing show this summer. It's is this Billy, the Magical History Tour?
Magical History Tour.
The Magical History Tour, going back to Liverpool, August 23rd?
That's it.
August 23rd through September 2nd at Billy's table right outside. You can grab this and find out more about it, and I would love to come.
I think it's going to be great. I'm very excited about it because I haven't appeared in Liverpool in like 13 years, and that was just on a one-night stand where I was, you know, in and out, you know, at a small theatre. But this is going to be great to actually perform, you know, in Matthew Street and do a couple of shows at the Cavern. You know, I'm really psyched about it. You know.
So what, it's amazing, like if I hadn't been back, I mean, I've been lucky enough to be here pretty much my whole life. I've seen Brooklyn change. I've seen Manhattan change over 30 years. What goes through your mind? Like it's going back to Liverpool, is there trepidation? Are you excited about it?
Obviously I want to see the changes. You know, it's funny because, I mean, I would say the last time I was there, I stayed at my brother's house in Liverpool, and I took it like a day to like walk around the whole place, or as much of it as I could, and I was staggered by the amount of changes, and I think I'm going to be staggered this time. You know, it's going to be great.
I mean, think of this. Your friend, your co-musician who used to play the Cavern with John Lennon,
Yes.
the man who wrote Bad to Me.
Yeah.
When you fly in, you're going to fly into John Lennon Airport. How insane was that thing?
It's absolutely insane. You know. I'll be honest with you, Ken. It's like, I remember some years ago now, but one of the proudest moments of my career was when they asked me to unveil a John Lennon statue, you know, by the Cavern there. It meant an awful lot to me.
One of the things that Billy said to me over the years, and it's quite true, many people have, John Lennon is this icon to us. Lennon is this image. It's the Bob Gruen poster with the T-shirt. It's the psychedelic John. It's Beatle on Ed Sullivan John. It's the Bed In for Peace John. It's the Imagine John. But this was just your friend.
Sure.
You know, to us it's this star. To you, it's a buddy.
It's still a star too. There was always something about the Beatles from the first time I ever met them, that there was something magical about them. You know, when you walked into a room and you started up a conversation, there was just something magical about the guys.
You had said to me way back when, even in the Cavern, the earliest days, you said when they were on, you told everybody, that's the greatest band you're ever going to see.
From the first time I saw them, which was at a place called Littleton Town Hall, I remember sort of raving about them, and I remember walking home with some school friends, and I said, they're going to be bigger than Elvis. And they said, you're out of your mind. And I said, no, I really mean it.
Was there a friendly rivalry, like you, the Swinging Blue Jeans, the Beatles, Jerry Marsden, Jerry and the Pacemakers, was it camaraderie or rivalry?
I would say it was, there was a lot of camaraderie, you know, with the Beatles especially, you know. And they were always great. It was great, you know. I'll never forget the tours I did, you know, and there was just magical, that period. That period of my life was absolutely, you know, magical. It's funny enough, a friend said to me, like about a week ago, he said, don't you ever get fed up of going to them things like the Beatle Fest and just hearing about the Beatles? Doesn't it piss you off? And I said, to tell you the truth, it doesn't at all, because, you know, I always think that maybe I was like, okay, but to me, they were the gods of rock and roll, you know, and that's what I was all about.
And, you know, there's nothing to be ashamed of to say they were better. They
were the best.
Yeah.
You know, there's no two ways about it. They were the best, you know.
And
simple as that.
I think we kind of mutually feel that way too.
Yeah.
You know, if you go on YouTube, put in Billy J. Kramer, it was something that I was talking about before with Chris Montez about the screaming, about people not even listening to you perform. There are some TV shows along the way, if you see Billy, you come out on stage and the girls are just screaming, and you're not doing any Tom Jones dance moves. It's a ballad, and they're screaming. It's not just a rave up. You're singing ballads, and they're screaming. And you walk out, and they're screaming.
I just think that was part of what girls did, you know, back then. I just thought it was part of it, you know.
But also, there was an exoticism, your accent, You're a Brit. You're a handsome British boy, like the Beatles. Right. It's this forbidden fruit, and here you are in America, and just and it was just it was uncontrollable.
But I thought it was great.
I'll bet.
I loved it. You know.
You did.
To me, it was a lot of fun. You know, I mean, life's too serious to take serious, Ken. That's the way I look at it.
If you want to see an amazing performance, one of the things that Billy, as a matter of fact, Billy has him outside. Do you guys know about the Tammy Show? The Teenage Awards Music International. What Sting sings about when the world is running down. Same tapes I've had for years, James Brown and Tammy Show. This is just remarkable. You think Beach Boys, Chuck Berry, James Brown, Marvin Gaye, the Barbarians, Jerry and the Pacemakers, Leslie Gore, Jan and Dean, Smokey, the Supremes, the Stones, and Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas. How did this come about?
How did it come about? I mean, it was a film we did all those years ago in California, and it was just an amazing experience. You know, I mean, it just was. You know, all these great artists were put together, and funny, I never saw this thing at all because it wasn't shown in England. I think it was shown in the movie houses, just a quick one-time.
But it was never on the Beeb at all.
No, it was never on anything. And when I came to live in the States, I saw like the odd bit of a bootleg of it, but it was never ever put out in the form it is today, and it is fantastic.
And this has been remastered and redigitized, and the soundtrack cleaned up. What's the quote? In the top 3 of all rock movies, Quentin Tarantino. The Santa Monica Civic Auditorium, October 29th, 1964.
It was just absolutely amazing. The audience were crazy, and I felt so bad that day, funny enough, for the Rolling Stones.
Why?
Because, you know, James Brown to me was always fantastic, but that particular show, he was so on top of his game. It was like the best I ever saw James Brown, and like the Rolling Stones had to follow him. You know, and seriously, it took them about an hour to shut the crowd up before the Stones went on after James Brown was on the show. And you know, I've got a lot of memories about it, but I'm not going to go into it today. But it was really a fantastic show to be involved in. You know,
I mean, it's remarkable of the crowd, the people. Were you a big fan of Motown?
Was I a big fan of Motown?
Of Motown, yeah.
Oh yes, I liked Motown very much. I loved it.
Because I know John and the guys always talked about Buddy Holly. You know, they love Buddy Holly. They covered it. They covered Motown. They did Sam Cooke. They did Smokey. Mm-hmm. And how about you?
Me with Motown. I loved like the Four Tops and Smokey, and I loved all of them, you know.
How did that music get to Liverpool? How did you ever hear it?
I don't know. I was on a tour. No, seriously, when Motown really started taking off, you know, with the Supremes and the Miracles.
You were already out on the road.
I was out on the road, and Motown to me was very new, you know, and I really liked it because the Motown records have had such a great rhythm section, you know, and I really dug it.
They sure did. So we've got this. I want to leave some time for questions. Everything wide open, no off limits. It's just Billy. We have any questions for Billy? Yes, sir.
Bands.
Question of, let me repeat it, of the Mersey era, the Mersey beat sound, could you talk about some of the bands that we haven't mentioned, like Rory Storm and the Hurricanes?
I liked, there was a band called King Size Taylor and the Dominoes, and I was, you know, I was a big fan of them. Rory Storm, you know, was a great performer, you know. A lot of these people, you know, to be honest with you, and I do think about this, there was a lot of very, very talented people around at that time who were as good as me and as good as Jerry and a lot of other people, but they just didn't get the breaks, you know. King Size, to me, should have been the biggest thing next to the Beatles.
Really?
I really thought so. He had a great band, and he was a great singer, and they were really fantastic. I like the Big Three. The Big Three were a wonderful band. I like the Mersey Beats. I don't know whether they really took off here, but I thought they were a great band too.
By the way, interesting side note that you had told me years ago when the Beatles were looking to replace Pete Best.
Right.
Before they got to the drummer from Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, a guy named Richard Starkey, didn't they ask your drummer to join them?
Brian approached Tony, his name was Tony Mansfield. That was his stage name, as he said, but his name was Tony Bookbinder, who's the brother of a girl singer called Elkie Brooks in England. And he approached Tony to join the Beatles, and Tony turned him down. I don't know how he feels about that today, but,
Well, you said you had gigs in London, right? They were,
Sure.
yeah, they were going to Germany,
Sure.
and you were booked in London. Who would you rather play a strip club in Hamburg or go to London and play? It's an obvious choice.
Sure.
Yeah. Next question. Yes, sir. Question is, did Billy have any connections to Tony Sheridan, and did you have any relationship with him?
No, I really, I'll be honest with you, I met Tony several times over the years, and I think it was a Beatle Fest or similar things to this. I met him at some years ago, but I didn't have any, I never even struck up a conversation with him,
Yes, you, sir, right here.
Yes.
Billy, would you tell this story again? And you should never, ever stop telling it, how you were offered the song yesterday.
Yesterday, I was doing a summer season. I was doing like a residency in a theatre in Blackpool, which is in the north of England. And, I was sort of playing to a very adult audience every night. And I thought, this is a drag, I'm going to go down and see the Beatles, and for the first time ask for a song. And they were doing a TV show from the ABC in Blackpool, and Paul sat on the front row, and I asked him, I said, Paul, I really need a good song. And he played me Yesterday. And I said, I don't like it. I've had to live with that all these years. But I for years, I questioned myself, like, what is that all about? And the real reason is, I'd had a hit with Trains and Boats and Planes, a Burt Bacharach song, and I thought, I'm playing to all these old fuddy-duddies every night, I don't want a song like Yesterday, That's the only explanation I can give.
And by the way, talk about Liverpool rising to its best. Billy plays live. As you've seen him, it's spectacular. It's amazing that all these years on, here's Paul McCartney this past summer replaying Shea Stadium again for all intents and purposes, and still at the top of his game, still singing like a man.
I'll be honest with you, I was away somewhere, and I didn't get to see the show, but I bought the DVD as soon as it came out. And, I've seen Paul many, many times over the years, and I just thought, after all this time, this guy is right on top of his game. He's ahead of the game,
It's what the world wants. And singing in the same key that he wrote these songs in when he was 20.
Well, that's a lot of people, as they get older, they drop the keys. Frank Sinatra did.
Sure.
But Paul hasn't.
And an amazing band. It comes down, like, you've got Liberty DeVito. He's got Abe Laboriel Jr. If you have a great band, Brian Ray, that's what keeps you going.
I think getting that band together, with the band Paul put together, I think really, was a big, big plus for
It
him.
re-energized him.
It re-energized them, and really, they're great.
Fantastic. Yes. Any questions? Yes, sir, with the camera. With Billy? Did you ever have a relationship with Peggy Lipton of the Mod Squad?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever have a relationship with Link from the Mod Squad?
No,
Tig Andrews?
I don't know who
Room
I had
222?
I didn't know who I had a relationship with.
I think it's no. Yes, sir. Yes, behind him. Yes. Were you with the Beatles at the Star Club in Hamburg?
Was I?
Yes.
No, I went to the Star Club with the Dakotas, and we worked there for about 6 weeks, and it was like a training ground. You either came back from Hamburg and you'd got it, or you packed in, That's how I felt about it,
I think I got time for like one or two more. Yes, sir, in the white shirt.
From a window?
Would you talk about keep you satisfied and from a window?
Pardon, were they done for me? I'll Keep You Satisfied was just John and Paul came to the studio and played us the song, and George Martin thought of better changes and better chords, but that's how I'll Keep You Satisfied and From a Window came,
Yes. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Oh, it's actually a great question. If people don't know, is Billy J. Kramer and the Dakotas. How did the Dakotas get their name?
I've no idea. I've no idea. I mean, I was Billy Kramer, and Brian, funny enough, when I decided to turn professional, Brian, like the band I had, they weren't that good, and plus the fact that they didn't want to continue as professional musicians. And he decided to find me a good backing band. And funny enough, the first band he approached was the Remo 4. That was a very good Merseyside band. He thought these would be great for Billy. But they had a singer and they wanted to do different things. So that was out of the question. The Dakotas, they'd been backing a guy called Pete McLean for a long time, but decided that they would sever with Pete and join me. And that was Brian. Brian put that thing together.
Did John have any input in naming the band?
No, I don't think so. I think the only input John had was one day I had this talk with Brian in the office with the Dakotas, and he said, go to the cavern and have a jam and see what you think, whether you think you can work together. And we went down the cavern, and the next thing, John and Paul were sat on the back row, and they were clapping away and saying, it sounds great, and I thought, Brian must have done this. He must have sent them down, because I don't think the Dakotas were that keen on getting together with me.
Really?
No, I don't. But that's how it felt.
Fantastic. It seems like a flood of memories of that, and the thought of going back there and playing after all these years, for playing this summer, I think that'll be spectacular for you.
It'll be great if the Dakotas don't turn up.
It's like the Creedence Clearwater Revisited. There's a leader and there's a backing band, and they should move on and do some other things.
It was a very difficult relationship, Ken. I mean, I don't want to. My phone's going. I can't believe it.
That's probably them calling.
I know. Yeah, it's most likely one of them.
Have you ever had any words with them? I mean, as far as through the years?
I'll be honest with you. They approached me to do a tour like 10 or 12 years ago, a big tour in England. And I said, sure, let's get together and let's do it. And we got together and we rehearsed. And the show went brilliantly, but I couldn't take them. I got to be really honest about these things. I just thought, I I can't do it. I was offered the same thing again the following year, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't deal with it at all.
Well, you got a hell of a band playing now with you.
That's right.
Between Liberty, Frank, Andy, it sounds absolutely spectacular.
Sure.
Between that and capturing the magic of the Tammy Show on remastered DVD, will you be signing some autographs outside? We get to see him?
Sure. Of course I will.
A dear friend, and you get to see him sing tonight, Mr. Billy J. Kramer.
Thank you.